You have 3 voicemails.
The most recent thing that I sold, I bought it a few years ago at a particular price. And then now I managed to sell it for double the price that I got it
Bloody
at.
hell.
There's one time where I was sent a package of lingerie at work. And next 2 years, you sell it, you'll be making some money off it. You're sort of guaranteed that because they've spent decades building their brand value.
Hello there.
Welcome to the show where we have the convos about Vietnam, you know.
Hello there. Welcome to Convo Comrades, a conversation with the community about Vietnam. In this episode B of our Golden Guest series, we continue our conversation with Trang, a multi-international.
You messed up the intro.
An international professional working in the UK who has more than 100,000 followers on Instagram. So on the last episode, we talked about Instagram, about strategies to gain followers on Instagram, as well as the dark side of social media. And in this episode, we'll continue our conversation with Trang, the fashion industry, as well as the corporate identity versus an online image.
Very suspenseful. Thank you so much, Long.
Yes. Let's kick off this conversation strong about fashion industry. This is an area where I have no idea about. I don't follow anyone about fashion.
Mm-hmm.
That's my disclaimer. Because I don't understand it. I don't understand.
I
What
think
is there? What is there not to understand?
I think you've made that point very clear, Long, that you
Yeah.
don't know fashion.
Abundantly clear, yes.
After the first 10 times. But I guess the first question is, why do you like fashion? What got you into fashion in the first place?
Fashion is just a way to express yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And just like I just said before, I'm quite an introverted person. So as much as, there are things that I can't say with words, then these same things can be shown through how I dress or how I just carry myself, which is actually quite a powerful statement because I'm sure that you guys are aware of like these sort of impression that people can have within, say, even just the first 5 seconds of seeing you, and the power of like, say, prejudice or just first impression kind of thing. And I actually do believe in that. And this is a thing that actually, when I've talked to people at my work about, my boss, my colleagues, they all actually, many agree with me that the way you dress say a lot about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I've always sort of realized that, and it's just a way for me to express this other side of myself where I don't really have to put into words that, oh, I like this color, so I'm wearing this, or oh, hey, I like this style, I'm wearing it. It says a lot about yourself without you having to say it, which is always interesting for me and ever challenging to sort of always refresh and renew yourself, or how you feel on a particular day is directly impacting how you are dressing. It's just always, it's an evolution of a concept that is just very interesting to me about how fashion reflects who you are.
Fascinating. So we've known each other for 15 years, and I recall...
Again, not 15. What is wrong with your math? I just have to keep correcting you. Okay,
15 plus.
let's set the record straight. We knew each other since 2003 when we first... Was it 2003? Yeah, in secondary school. And that is at least 17 years.
18 years. All right, let's go for 18 years. Are you happy with 18?
Wow, it's like a whole person who can drink and drive.
What? Drink and drive? No.
Not drink and drive. Oh gosh, that came out completely wrong. Do not drink and drive.
So we're landing on number 18 now. So we've known each other for 18 years. And I do recall back in Singapore, you used to like buy a lot of clothes as well. And then you used to sell a lot of clothes. So yeah, fashion has always been with you for quite some time. And did you realize when you started your Instagram that you wanted to post about fashion, or was it more or less about your life and then you transition into fashion?
No, always completely about fashion. Actually, as a matter of fact, I never want to reveal anything about my life until like absolutely necessary when people actually ask me questions. Other than that, I really want to just keep it a space where I post my outfit and what I think about fashion and whatnot. I really don't want to touch on myself, as a topic to my followers at all. And that's how private I am as a person and how introverted I am as a person. So yeah, it has always been just about fashion.
What are the perks of getting into fashion on Instagram?
Oh, the free clothes. You never run out of things to wear. And it's just kind of funny because brands would send you like clothes, and sometimes like you wouldn't know it, and they would send you like a suitcase size package.
Oh my God.
And back then, I didn't have a porter in the apartment that I was leaving, so I've always used my work address, so the company's address, so that the packages are received for me by reception and then brought to my desk. That has resulted into so many funny stories at work about the kind of things that were brought to my desk. I was sitting in between my two big bosses. And just imagine things that just get delivered to me, like suddenly a huge box of flour, suddenly like a teddy bear, and then some huge like suitcase size full of like clothes in there. And then they were just like, Trang, are you like stealing from the firm? Or, are you, using your lunchtime to do laundry? Why is there so much clothes here?
Are you dating a Saudi prince or something?
Yeah, there's a lot of funny stories and questions about that at work. So yeah, that is a nice perk. But actually, interestingly, that's one of the reasons why I've sort of come to also disassociate myself with this kind of fast fashion trend and stop posting a lot about clothes and fashion in general, because I was just realizing how wasteful this all is. Because anytime I open my wardrobe, oh my gosh, that would be like a mountain of stuff that was about to attack me. And yet I keep receiving more. And the pressure of always like buying these new things and wearing these new things. And then, there's this kind of constant advert from other social media influencers. Brands like Zara, H&M, Topshop, all these your fast fashion, high street kind of brands, just very affordable, always ever changing the style and whatnot. It just makes it so easy to make an order and to shop like every week, every other day, and then yet you get free clothes being sent to you. And most of the times, I gotta say, these are like quite low quality clothes. Many of these clearly just made in China. You can look at the stitches, and then you inspect the quality of these things. These are not meant to last. These are the kind of things that you wear once or twice.
Long, I'm looking at you. I think we're
Long-
wearing those.
Oh gosh.
I mean, for those who don't know, I'm just going to describe what I'm seeing on screen right now, right? So, Trang is wearing like this really, I don't know, it looks quite like a classy kind of jumper.
Cashmere. Right?
Yeah, cashmere probably. Long is wearing this just white t-shirt. That's it. It's a white t-shirt. I'm sure it's H&M or Zara, and I'm in my pajamas.
Again, I'm not okay. Yes, but I'm not criticizing people who buy from these brands. It's the trend. It's the people who keep buying and throwing and then buying again. Obviously, if they last you for years, that's great. You are saving a lot. You are finding items that are lasting you for years. That's great. But the thing about social media and the thing about these people posting outfits is that they change and they buy stuff all the times, and many times they just buy to take a photo with and then send back immediately. That's the problem with like brands like ASOS and Boohoo have to deal with a lot online, because their clothes are just so cheap, and they make the return process just so easy that you literally would buy, I don't know, 20 items and you send back 19 items the next day. Over time, when I see all of that for too long, I just start thinking that it's just so wasteful. And as I mature as a person and in my professional career as well, I just enjoy these kind of like low quality fast fashion less and less. Maybe that's just how my sense of style has changed as I mature as a person. And I realize that I want to invest in better quality and, more handmade stuff, more things that are not always made out of China, and just things that last for years and years. Yes, they might be a lot more expensive, but then that's why it triggers you to think a lot more carefully before you buy these items, because these are meant to be in your wardrobe for a decade. And when you buy, you are supposed to think carefully about how it fits into your wardrobe. Can you just keep reusing this item with various outfits? That's what it's supposed to do. And I'm liking that trend a lot more than just mindlessly buying a whole lot of cheap items from Zara, H&M, and then just never wear them again. Because in the end, that costs you a whole lot more money than, just investing on one or two very good quality items.
To what extent do people buy luxury goods and then take photos and then return them? Is that even a thing? Because I hear a lot of Vietnamese people, for example, who go overseas, let's say to Paris, and they go to like the likes of Chanel, Louis Vuitton, so on and so forth, take a lot of photos with bags and clothes, and then return them afterwards.
So I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding, because that wouldn't be a return. That would be a reselling kind of thing. Because for luxury goods that you've bought in person, you can't return. Brands like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, they don't really do a return policy. You can possibly exchange for another item or exchange for store credit, but I don't think that they really do a return. And then they just have to run too much risk of people buying and then like returning a fake item in store, and then it's just too much of a risk. So actually, they don't really do that. What people do is to snatch the popular items right away, and especially when they're traveling, because the items in Europe tend to be cheaper than what you can get in Vietnam and in Asia. So they would buy and then have fun with it, take photos, take it out for a couple of days, couple of weeks, whatever, and then resell it. Just immediately post it on reselling platforms or your social media again, just to say, okay, yep, just letting go of this item. Sometimes you get exactly back what you paid. Sometimes you get back even more if it's a really popular item, if it's a very desirable brand. And again, people do that for a living. There are people who literally make trips to France to buy a whole lot of bags and things and literally hand carry them back to Vietnam. And I've seen them then charging at, say, 30% more than retail price immediately to people in Vietnam. And yeah, the people at home who don't have the opportunity to get these items just literally just buy them up really quickly. So that's also a whole other career path that some have picked for themselves.
This market, does it exist because these items are limited edition, or people are just lazy to travel to stores, or maybe they don't have the store doesn't have presence in Vietnam like Chanel did?
Yeah,
but Chanel definitely has a store in Vietnam.
It's an element of everything. There's definitely, I think the biggest thing is that they can't really get it in Vietnam, or like the very popular items. So yeah, people have always realized that, if I can get a sought after item, I can immediately flip it and sell it on. And actually, many do it like as an investment. I've seen people that see new collections coming out, and then even though they are not quite interested in the items themselves, they have the opportunity to buy, and they are convinced that this is an item whose value will appreciate. Then just buy it, and then in the next year you flip it for 20% more. And just think about your normal investments. What kind of investment give you quite guaranteed 20% returns like some of these brands manage to? So that's quite a amazing thing.
And the buying process sometimes can be quite tedious too, right? I heard that with some brands you need to develop a relationship with the store assistant or store manager or something like that to
for
get
someone
notified.
who say that they don't know anything about fashion, you know a lot.
No,
he doesn't know about fast fashion, but he knows so much about luxury.
Luxury fashion.
No. In my defense, right, I don't know about fashion, but I know someone who knows about fashion, which is my fiance. My fiance talks about these bags all the time, and people from Vietnam ask her to go to store to buy things.
Yep.
And then in my mind, I thought, what do you mean? They can just go to the website and then
oh no,
click
none of
buy
these
now.
are available on the website. They don't sell online.
Yeah. So that's when I got explained, you need to develop a relationship with the store manager, and then you'll be the front line for when a new season comes out, and then they'll call you, hey, Long, I've got this new bag.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you would have like what I would call a sales associate who you work with frequently, and then like I would have them on WhatsApp. Literally on my WhatsApp right now, I'll have like a list of conversations with sales associate, because that's the kind of contact that you also need to secure items, because a lot of people want them and brands know this and they capitalize on this, and they would only make very limited quantity. Maybe it's all like a facade that they create this sense of exclusivity behind their products that make people want them more. I know what kind of brands you're talking about, but I'm not really going to name them. But yeah, there are brands that literally exist. And the whole thing about these brands is that they don't just sell to anyone. You have to have a whole history. You have to buy a lot of things from them in order to even be offered a particular item. You have to have spent the equivalent amount of that item in other random items that you don't really want,
Wow.
just so that you are offered this item. You think about it, it's absolutely crazy because you are begging to spend your money with this brand.
Yeah.
And yet it works like a charm because it just apparently people were just lining up on the street at any times of the day and then just begging to buy that. And they do that because the brand has that power and that value behind their name. They know that the moment they get that item, immediately they go out the door. There are people outside asking to buy off the item off you. That actually has happened to me in Paris, where I walked out of a particular brand with their shopping bag, right? The big shopping bag. And then people out on the street knows that I've just managed to buy something from there. And then they would ask me like, what did you just buy? Can I buy it off you? I'll pay you more. And then I'm like, what? Who the fuck are you? Just people on the street. And yeah, it's just crazy. That sort of things happens in
Wait,
Paris.
I'm so sorry. I'm quite confused there, but what's stopping them from walking into the store and buying it themselves?
They can. The sales associate would be telling them that, we've run out.
Right. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
We don't have anything to sell to you. So they really pick and choose their customer. They look at your profile, or maybe they research you first, or if you look like the kind of clientele that only buy to resell. So like if you look like a reseller, pretty much, like you go in and you say, I don't care the color, I don't care about the size, I don't care anything, just give me anything. Then they know that you are not buying for yourself. So there's a lot of conversation to be had when you are, shopping with the brand and whatnot. It's all sound quite crazy.
Yeah.
But
No,
believe
that's
me,
new. Okay.
there's a huge market for these sort of products. And weirdly enough, or ironically enough, with COVID, the brands that are doing very badly are the high street brands that have had to shut and switch online, or the people whose incomes were affected so that they are no longer shopping.
Yep.
These are actually the fast fashion brands that were affected. The people who are shopping with these luxury brands, their incomes were not affected by COVID. If anything, they are saving a lot more by not traveling, doing all this hopping from country to another. So they're just at home and literally just shopping on the phone with their long-term associate. Buying even more from these brands. So it's crazy that I think it exacerbates the income inequality a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And how would you describe these people in general, in terms of wanting to buy the brand and, like how you put it, begging to spend money on these items? They're definitely not buying the functionality of a bag. What are they buying? What are they spending the money on?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I got a lot of these comments on any of my posts about a bag or about a brand as well. People would be saying that, you're just buying a brand. Or, would you have bought this ugly looking bag if it had not been for a particular logo that was slapped on it? People do ask me that like all the time. And yes, I mean, no questions about it. You are buying the brand. You are not just like, people can try to convince you that, this is great functions and whatnot. But okay, one thing that I can't really dispute is that they do have great quality. It does come with better quality than what you can find in like Primark or Zara, whatever, because these are real leather. These are like real handmade leather bags. So they do come with great quality. But that does not justify the kind of like price that they are trying to rob you for.
Because it's exponential, isn't it?
No handmade leather bag should cost you thousands and thousands of pounds. So yes, you are definitely buying the brand. So with that thing, I'm not ashamed about it because it's something that I think people should just be real about. You are spending money and you're buying that name. You're not just buying this functional bag. You could carry just a nylon bag and that would have carried the same kind of stuff. So it's just about the quality and the brand. But then I think that it's justified because these brands, they have spent decades building their name. These are not random brands that have just come up on the scene that nobody knows about. But they've spent like their history, they've got like decades. It takes them a lot of time and effort to develop the IP right behind their designs and their product. And the amount that they spend on marketing, on their brand name, on whatever else that they do to grow a brand, right? And to become this kind of like the pinnacle of fashion, like these certain brands, they've spent a lot. And you are buying in their success and you believe in this value of this brand. You believe that your bag will maintain its value. You're buying it at this price, and you know that every year they increase their prices twice. You know that if you hold on to it for 2 years, next 2 years you sell it, you'll be making some money off it. You're sort of guaranteed that because they've spent decades building their brand value. So what is wrong with buying for the brand? Because you are buying into that value.
No, that's a good point. And to add on to that, the next step is, once you've bought the brand, you command a level of prestige, a level of good first impression, and therefore it leads to connections and relationship and how you're being perceived. Interesting. So you touched on investments, buying these luxury goods for investments. How does it work? Because you mentioned the point there of, having a guaranteed increase in value over time. Is it truly guaranteed? If that's the case, I'm going to put some money into this. To what extent is this guaranteed?
I've had partners at my firm that have asked me to help them buy bags.
Yeah.
because yeah, that's just, but then it's also not that easy because, like everybody would do it if it's that easy.
Yeah.
Even though, okay, there is these brand names that are household names that everybody know of. Yes. But even then, within their collections, there are the certain bags, a certain colors, a certain kind of like quality or, material that are a lot more popular than some others. And only by consumer experience with the brands for many years, or having like really studied the trend or looking at the reselling market to see what products are being resold for the most price or what people are most searching for, then you would know what product to buy. Like any risky investment, if you don't choose your investment wisely, you could just as easily make a loss on that. And yeah, I personally, just in the last few years, I've bought and sold quite a lot of bags, and just, I guess quite luckily, or maybe thankfully, I've picked the designs that have
No, it's based on your experience.
Yeah, maybe. Or, the way that I always believe that I can make a bag look good. If it also depends on how you wear it, how you take pictures with it. It's all the angles, the lighting, the editing. It's a lot of things. You can have a beautiful bag, but if you just throw it onto your sofa and take a picture, that's gonna look like shit. So
thanks
there's a lot of
dissing my sofa.
just saying, there's a lot of work into it as well. But just thankfully, when I've resold bags, I've hardly ever made a loss. When I've made a loss, it's only like a small, tiny loss. And when I've made a gain, I've made anything from 10% gain to 100% gain. Yeah. So for the most recent thing that I sold, I bought it a few years ago at a particular price. And then now I managed to sell it for double the price that I got it at.
Hell.
So yeah, it could be a real investment, but it does also take a lot of study and research into the market, just like anything, or otherwise that is just money you say goodbye to.
Yeah. It's not really something that, anyone can just jump in, right? It requires a lot of experience, a lot of understanding of the products and the market. So to what extent, I'm not sure if you're happy to answer this, but to what extent do you get into this because of the reselling investment side of things?
Definitely not.
You don't want to piss off your sales associate.
No. Oh yeah. Well, I bet that they're not listening to this, hopefully.
Yeah.
But no, it was not that at all. But it's just that I've always tried to think carefully about where I park my money. So people can see me just like going on a spending spree or posting things on social media looking like, oh, I'm just wasting money, just spending like all of this. But I've thought carefully about what I spend my money on, and say, just instead of like going out very frequently for these expensive meals outside, for that, the money that I spend on these kind of things would be gone forever. Just never taking back. But if I park my money on this particular bag that I've researched, and I think that if I ever need the money back, obviously I buy it because I enjoy that bag and I love it and I would wear it, but I would also be, using it carefully. I would not be throwing it around and then beat it against the wall or anything like that. Just in the future, if, God forbid, I ever be out on the street and need to, need cash for something. It's just a very strange way of thinking about it, but I do think about where I put my money, and I know for sure if I need the money, I could get at least some of it back. Depends on how quickly I need it, obviously. But yeah, I could get the money back, and that's not something that you can say about a lot of things that people spend their money on.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these things people spend money on every day, on your cup of Starbucks, on your anything. Like, there's not a lot of things that you can spend and know that for sure when you need some money, you can get it back.
So a lot of the products and goods that people spend their money on, either they disappear or they depreciate rapidly in value. But the things that you spend your money on, they tend to either retain their value, or even, what's the other word? Appreciate in value.
Appreciate. Yeah. That is one of the criteria that I would think about before I put my money on something. So that's why I always struggle to see whether I need to buy a car. And I'm like, I've spent like as much on a bag. So really a car is not like exceptionally expensive, but a car is something that is the moment you drive it out of the showroom, it lost 30% of its value. And it's something that has so much cost into maintaining and all these other taxes and whatnot that comes with it, that to me, I'm just kind of convinced that that is such a bad investment. That if I don't really need it as a vehicle for travel, then I would not be buying it.
This is a very great advice here. You
for you or for your fiance?
This is a new way of thinking, right? Consumer goods versus investment product. And I wanted to ask, if I were to get into this bag buying business.
Well, I know what the question is. The first tip is not to call it bag buying business.
No, everything has its hard work attached to it, right? You need to do your research. But with fashion, with trends, I'm always confused. How do you know a trend is coming, or who sets the trend? Or you have to follow a lot of people or companies or brands, right, to know what's in fashion, what's in season. And I think some people even predict next season, or how does that work? How do you know the right trend to hop on?
Wait, sorry, Trang, before you answer that, can I just check? I don't think you're investing in things that are trendy, right? You're investing in things that are timeless.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the other biggest criteria. Is this gonna stay? Is this the kind of thing that people would still wear next year? If it looks too funky, if it looks too unique, kind of crazy looking, that is really in trend this year. But I'm convinced that that's not gonna stay. Like after a period of hype, is going to go, then never spend your money on that sort of stuff. So that's one thing. But I mean, to answer Long's question, for one, it's way above my pay grade to be predicting trends. That is the job of like literally fashion editors that have been working in the industry and have, connections and contacts with really the leading figures in the industry for decades. So it's way above me to be trying to predict trends. That's why I try to stay with things that I know are like quite timeless, stay with the colors and the materials that are quite really timeless, like, organic materials, silk, cotton, colors, black, white, this kind of, or beige, these kind of things that will last forever and ever, no matter what the trend goes. These are the things that people would still be wearing every day. And then when you look at items that a brand is launching, you look at like how long has this item been in production? Is this a completely new one? If it's a completely new one, you held back and you think about it and you observe the market for a little bit. You see how people are responding to it. You see how people on social media. And this is why social media is also great in a sense that you can really see how people are responding very quickly. Otherwise, this is me, like, I have to go out on the street, getting people to fill a survey, maybe, to find out what they think about this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas with social media, it's so powerful. You go on, you click on a hashtag on a certain product, you see how people are responding to it immediately.
Yeah.
And it takes a bit of work, and then you hold back. You see how the market is responding. But if it's an item that has been in production for like 20 years, in the last 30 years, and they are still producing it, that means that they've done their research. This product stays. So you can bet your money that that product will retain its value.
Wait, on that point, if the product's been staying for so many years, what's stopping the production of that product in the next couple of years? I thought the price of the good will only appreciate once there is a shortage of supply.
But there is a shortage of supply because they will not make enough bags for the number of people who want them.
To meet the demand.
Yeah, they can.
It's a branding thing, isn't it?
Exactly. They can build more factories. They can hire more people. They can increase production, but they do not want to. The value of the brand is in the exclusivity and the hard to get kind of factor.
Yep.
So they keep it that way. They keep the supply really limited so that there is always more demand.
Scarcity. Like Bitcoin.
Can you not do this, please? Guys, invest in luxury goods and Bitcoin responsibly. All right, I'm sure at this point in time, a lot of our listeners are dying to know what you actually do as your full-time job. You've been alluding to it multiple times throughout the podcast. Yeah, let's also understand a bit more about how your colleagues perceive you and your Instagram account and how that relates to your professional life. So can you introduce your professional work? What do you do?
I'm a tax advisor. I guess that's the most general thing that I can say. Or more like a consultant at a professional firm in London. I'm not going to name the firm or anything, but find out easily enough, I guess, on LinkedIn. So what I do is we help financial services clients like bankings, insurance clients, asset management with their tax planning and their tax structuring. And that involves a lot of like research and understanding of the current tax law and the ever-changing, the new cases that are being decided in court. And what are the current issues that are still changing and evolving, and be able to advise clients on that. So essentially, it's kind of like finding legal tax loopholes to help companies minimize their tax outgoings, I guess.
From a corporate perspective, I would change the word loophole to opportunities.
Very consultant of you. I like that. That's essentially what we do, which is very challenging, very technical, but it also can be very exciting when it's about, maybe it's a bit too nerdy for a lot of people because it is drilling into some very technical concept. But to me, it's always quite exciting to look into this certain new case law, or to be able to help argue on behalf of my clients with the tax authority here in the UK. Like, tax authority can come and say that, hey, client A, you owe us 500,000 in tax. And to be able to write a response and then argue like your way through and say that this is the reason, that's the reason, we do not owe that tax or whatever. And these are all legal. These are the concepts. And then just saying that tax authority, you check back your law. You are not applying your law correctly or fairly. So these are the sort of things that really quite interest me. And that is really like a bit of a polar opposite to Instagram side of things.
Not a bit, it's a lot.
Yeah, so that's what I say, polar opposite, because I can be a very nerdy person in real life with my job.
You gave me an impression of a lawyer abruptly standing up, hitting the table and say, Your Honor, I object. So,
yes, we do all of that in emails.
Okay. Obviously, I've known you for 18 years. There you go. And used to be a very qualitative person. So used to be the best student in our class in Vietnam on Vietnamese literature. You came to Singapore and you were very good in GP, which is general paper, which is a lot of essay writing. And then also going to LSE, you studied international relations as well. No one would have thought that you would end up in tax or having a career in tax. What's the link and what made you chose tax as a career?
What? I thought everything that you've just pointed out make it inevitable that I would end up in a career like that. So when you say that...
Do you know why? Because maybe when you clarify tax, it requires a lot of argument. It would have made sense. But to me or to a lot of people listening, tax involves a lot of numbers.
That is true a decade ago. But now all of that is being automated, for one. So these kind of numbers and spreadsheets, nobody is really spending a lot of time doing anymore.
Long is.
I'm sorry, Long. But I specifically chose this also because I've not had to deal with spreadsheets a lot. Maybe increasingly I might have to do more, but more on a reviewing side of thing rather than actually going out and computing spreadsheets. That's not something that I've ever had to do. What interests me immediately was a lot of the writing. And that's where, even from my very first year, I've always been, praised for my report writing skill or my, argument and whatnot. And that's something that Singapore really prepared us so well because of the style of writing that people have just said, like, mine is better than many native speakers or native writers. Not sure why, but that's just the way that it goes. And then, so when I put it that way, I'm sure you can see the link between the previous skill set that I've got, the kind of things that I was interested in doing, the writing, and why I then got into this career where a lot of what I do, 90% of what I do is tax advisory side of thing, where it's just advising and writing, arguing rather than crunching numbers.
I
That
am
makes sense.
thoroughly impressed now. Before this,
Get into tax. We are hiring. We are hiring a lot.
He wasn't impressed with your Instagram, but now he is.
Now
No,
you
no.
are really impressed.
but I must say I'm both impressed. 100K, wow. Now tax, writing, wow. I mean, I'm never good with writing. I'd say I'm a number person. Spreadsheets. Yeah. A question I wanted to ask is, you have these kind of two different identities, right? A corporate one, which you are professional, and your online image, right? How separate do you keep them?
So originally, I started out wanting to keep things really separate. I did not tell anybody about what I was doing online or anything like that because I want people to respect me professionally and think of me as a tax advisor, like a nerdy one. The nerdier, the better. I don't want people to be thinking of me like some sort of airhead, bimbo without anything in my head, which is actually really an unfair kind of thing to say about people on Instagram. But it's just a worry because I started out my career and I do not want people to be thinking less of me because of what I do as a hobby. So I try to keep it quite separate. I did not tell anybody until I think one day we were in some sort of we were out for some sort of tax retreat. Okay, that sounds a bit weird, but it was outside of work, but then a professional event outside of work. And then I was just chatting with my, mates at work, some of the people like my age who started out in the same year and whatnot, and we would become like close friends. So I don't necessarily consider them colleagues. We are like friends. And I think I shared that to one person. And then that person, somehow, I don't know what happened. The next morning when I came down, the whole company knows. Like,
oh, hell broke loose.
I know. I think it's just people think of that as like a juicy tidbit that it has to be shared like immediately. Everybody would be interested to know. So, hey, like, you manager, you senior manager, you partner, all come in here, hear this about Trang. So just, I don't know, it blew up. And everybody knew. So I guess at that point, there is no point denying anything or just...
That's not me. That's not me. That's another Asian petite girl.
There is no point in not answering their question or to sort of like shy away from that topic anymore. And actually, my partner, when I say partner, okay, for people who are not aware, it's like biggest boss in the team or firm or whatever. My partner actually tells me that, Trang, you should not be ashamed or embarrassed of this. This is something very interesting. If I have had a hobby as interesting as that, if I could say to people that I've made my hobby as, successful or, something as yours, I would be literally wearing a whole board to tell people that, like, go check out my Instagram. That's what they would be doing. And they were like, that's something interesting about you that people are interested to know. You don't have to hide that. And nobody's going to think less of you because that's what you choose to do on the side. Obviously, as long as you maintain your work quality, then nobody's going to bat an eyelid and everybody's just going to be interested. So from that point, I was like, okay, fine. That's what I'm going to do then. But even then, like the other people were just still telling me that, oh, this is the first time that they've ever met or seen a tax advisor that dressed like me or, have this activity that does Instagram on the side like me. And maybe that just speaks to the different generation that has come into the office now that has a social media presence. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but for the older, generations at work, the really true white collar with the suit and tie and everything, they are not used to seeing this new generation coming into the office acting like us. So that's all quite interesting.
I would agree with that in terms of that's probably the most interesting thing that can happen in a corporate environment. Normally, it's just, oh my God, the coffee machine is down. Oh my God, and that's the most interesting thing that happens in a work environment.
Come on, more interesting things happen. But I do have to share that sometimes it does come into conflict a little bit, like the two side. And I know, Long, you asked about that because you wanted to know. And I think something that sort of illustrates that a lot is this one time where I was sent a package of lingerie at work. And is that funny?
It's already funny.
How? Why is that funny?
But it depends on, if the brand is very clear from the outside.
No, it's actually a very classy looking box.
Okay.
So, but I know what it is. It says something like intimate something. Yeah. And then like my nosy bosses obviously would always like, Trang, what has just come today? What's in the package? What's in the box? And I would be like, some lingerie, if you have to know. And then they would turn red, in true typical British polite sense, like wishing, oh, I wish I didn't ask that. But then now it's a whole thing now. And they'll be like, oh, okay, interesting. And then I'm like, okay, I'm collaborating with this lingerie brand. And I like them because I think their designs are very nice and very classy looking, not those sort of like cheap, tacky looking things. And then I wasn't thinking too much of it, but because of the way that people were reacting in the office when they saw me receiving that, I started worrying about what it would look like when I post any pictures of myself wearing lingerie or anything like that on my account. Now that it's all out in the open, there are lots of people in the office who follow me and who actually check what I post. My bosses look at that. My clients might look at that.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay, what do I do? I've already, agreed to doing this. And then I think I asked my boss at work, like he's my boss, but we are like quite close. And I consider him like an older friend that I would often come to chat about stuff.
A mentor?
Yeah. So I would be like, what do you think? Or what would you think if I put up some post about me wearing this lingerie thing on my Instagram? And what do you think clients or other people in the office would think? And he would be like, Trang, I can't stop you. And I don't want to stop you from doing any of that because that's your thing. But just remember that what you put out there on social media stay forever. That's the only thing that he said to me. Just before you post anything, just think. Even if you delete that post, people would have screen grab it. People would have records of it. You might think that, you can, if you don't like it, you can delete it or whatever, but it would have been there. So whatever you put out there is a reflection of yourself and it will stay there forever. So that made me think a lot about how to do that campaign, how to post without impacting my professional self. And I'm still, and at the same time, I'm still that introverted person. I'm not want to go out there to be like, posing with my lingerie or whatever. So I had to really think and come up with some sort of creative solutions to kind of like still show the brand there, but not doing anything that goes out of my professional comfort zone. And it needs to be this thing that I'm comfortable with my colleagues and clients seeing.
Yeah.
And even after I did that shoots and posts, and then next day I come, and then my boss was like, "Come, show me the pictures." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds kind of creepy, right? Like this is the sort of thing that I can report to HR about at work." But then, I just show him, just like, okay, these are the approach that I'm thinking of to show this product without really showing it a lot. And then I show him, and then he's like, oh, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I've seen a lot worse for, other people in the office putting things on social media. I've seen them in like bathing suits. I've seen them like in lots of things. So this is nothing. You're fine. Once I get that sort of green light from him, it makes me feel a lot more reassured. That kind of content is fine. I put it up. But then that is one moment, that is one time where it just conflict my professional self and what I do on social media that make me think a lot.
What was the post? I'm still waiting. Did you just take the photo of the lingerie and then put it on the bed?
No, I was wearing it, but I'm still fully clothed, let's say.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's really interesting. The thing that I would like to comment is I think that the blurring between personal life and professional life happens more in Vietnam compared to in the UK, or at least in the West.
Definitely.
I think in the West and in the UK, we're quite conscious of having a very separate life to, what we do at work. We don't really want to, go to our colleagues' houses on a weekly basis and chatting about things that are non-work related. What do you think about this whole situation with you and Instagram now? Is it blurring?
A little bit, but it's still quite separate because of the vastly different culture that we have here. I can testify to that because before coming here to the UK, I worked in Vietnam for a while. I worked at British Council in Vietnam, and then I've experienced what an office in Vietnam was like. And it's really, people are a lot closer. Go out to lunches, dinners, after work, like going to the cinema and like visiting each other over the weekend, having coffee like all the times.
Pick up your boss's kids from school.
You did that?
No, I didn't do that, but my mom's colleagues would do that.
Oh shit. Yeah. So these sort of things over here, that is unthinkable, right?
Yeah.
If you mention that, hey, can I go pick up your kids for you after school? That's crazy. Like nobody would ever do that. Over here, it's like, okay, you have your professional hours, 9 to 5 or whatever. After these hours, you're dead to me. Like literally, I never want to see you outside of these hours. That's my personal life now. So it's kind of like very separate like that over here. And people just, they are interested in your personal life, but they would not, I think they are quite polite. They would only ask or talk about things that you are open to sharing. Whereas in Vietnam, people can be quite nosy about your personal life and like, what do your parents do? How much do they earn? Where do they live? Where do they come from? Just lots of things that people could ask you.
Are you more proud of your social media accomplishments or your professional life?
Professional life.
Why is that so?
Like I've made it through my, I think, very grueling 3 years of doing 2 professional qualifications that had, they did have 30% pass rate, and being through all of that and now being like a properly qualified advisor, that was quite a proud moment for me. And now staying on and then, taking more responsibilities and now, training juniors, teaching them these things that you learned years ago when you just joined. And now I've recently been promoted to manager, so I'm now managing.
Hey, congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So managing accounts and like really just have to pick up the phone and then really contact clients and do all of that stuff is something that I'm still struggling with, because every day I would feel like I'm out of my comfort zone doing that. And it's something that you just have to challenge yourself to do every day. And I think I'm quite proud of that, because I'm still growing up mentally. I think in my head, I don't know why, I still feel like I'm still very young, like early 20s, just out of university. Because the time when I got out of university, I feel like that was just a year or 2 ago. It didn't feel that long ago. So you are still sort of maturing in your head and still trying to fill all of these new responsibilities at work that they put on you. So there's that. And there's also the side of like deciding that my relationship with social media and Instagram will stop at it being a hobby and just a side creative outlet, something that you do for fun. It's not going to be something that I invest my life into to do. Yeah, when you're clear about the boundaries and your relationship with like the two sides, it's become very easy.
So probably 2 points to it, huh? So the first one is you see the horizon of the opportunity to grow and further develop yourself. It's the sort of opportunity that you want to look towards. And then the second one is you've come to terms that you're never going to do a full-time thing with Instagram. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a good question. All right. So a trend, a movement that I saw in Vietnam, I think a couple of years back, is startup, right? People hating the 9-to-5 job. They call it the rat race. They were naming things. So making the 9-to-5 job, a stable job, look really bad. I want to ask you, do you like your job? Right?
Well, yeah, I do. That's why I keep doing it. But I'm not going to say that I love it to the point of I will let it take over my life. Like I maintain a work-life balance. I would not just love my job to the extent of staying after hours to read up on these research cases and read these kind of tax law for fun. That's not how much I love my job. That's not it. But I like it enough, because I am a very sort of, I think, real and practical person. So this is a job that is earning you paychecks. You got to do it. And it will be a bit of a fantasy to think that you would just love it so much that, every day coming into work would be like enjoying yourself, all full of fun and games and whatnot. It's not that. It's still a professional job. They are paying you to do something. And as much as you try to like it and enjoy it enough so that your days and your times working there is not completely it's not hell. Because I know people who hate their job so much that literally the times that they spend at work is complete hell. But for me, I enjoy that. I enjoy the team that I work with. I have a good relationship with my colleagues. And, pre-COVID, when we are all still in office. Lots of bantering going on, lots of jokes, this is all fun. And then, when you get serious and you do your job, it's still fine. And then, because I was thinking of, if I've already spending so much of my life in this place, I might as well enjoy it, because otherwise you're just wasting your life there.
Yeah.
And the people that do startup and stuff like that, it's just, I guess the office 9 to 5 life is not for them. They are not routine people. They don't like already knowing what kind of things that you'll be doing today. They like making things for themselves, or they do not like answering to a boss. They like being their own boss. And they are completely fine with the unstable finance of, not getting like a paycheck every month. Whereas you just got to be real with yourself here. You can look and you can envy the people who do startup and whatnot, but are you that kind of person? You just gotta like think and be really real with yourself. That might look fun, but are you the person that is comfortable with that kind of non-routine and very risky lifestyle? That might be something that I fantasize about years and years ago, thinking that, oh, I want to be that fun, exciting, I want to have that career or life. But then, as you mature and you realize that, oh, I do enjoy stability. I want to know my paychecks are coming at the end of the month. I'm quite fine with routines. I like the people that I work with. So there's just got to be a balance there. I'm not going to be able to love my job to the extent that some of these people out there are dedicating, 20 hours a day on their job. I don't like my job that much, but I like it enough to stick to it.
Very wise words. Thank you. Thank you.
Your bosses will be very happy to hear that.
Yes, they know I'm going on there. So,
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
So this is a good advice, right? You need to dig deep and find out the person you are, the personality, and then find a suitable career for yourself.
And I think it's very important to look at the other side, the flip side of it as well. If you were to go on a startup, it's going to be worse than 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It's going to be like 9 to midnight.
It's your whole life.
Yeah.
It's any time that you've got.
Exactly, including Saturdays and Sundays as well. So you might be able to dig up, the bad side or the negative side of a corporate life, but there is also tons of bad side and negative side too, or the risks associated to going into a startup.
Exactly. So research, know what you're getting into. A signature question on Convo Comrades for our golden guest. So Trang, if you could go back in time to tell your younger self one sentence, when would you go back and what would you tell yourself?
I guess if I could go back to myself when I think the period when I was most stressed about my life was in Singapore. If I could just tell myself to enjoy the journey a little, you're definitely not going to lose your scholarship. So don't have to worry about it so much. I can just tell you right now that you're not going to lose your scholarship. So try to enjoy the journey a little bit more, because back then that was, I think, the most stressful that I ever got in my life. And that's not a period or the kind of experience that I would wish on anybody growing up.
Sounds like hell. It sounds like torture.
And do you agree?
I agree. I agree. So for those who are quite confused as to what's going on, the backstory to this is Trang and I, we both study in a middle school in Hanoi, and we both got the same scholarship to go to the same school in Singapore. And that school happens to be probably the number one and most prestigious school in Singapore. And given Singapore's track record of, high expectations and very intense education, being in a school that's already on the top of the ladder in that system was very demanding. And it does take a toll on you, given the expectations of having a scholarship, but also, just carrying the school brand name and doing well.
I think the environment was not as bad, actually, because there were a lot of fun things and activities and groups and communities that you can get involved in. But at that time, being in that space and moment, you couldn't think outside of that. You can't see that. You were all worrying about, because they keep warning you about your scholarship, right? You're not just there as a local student, paying money or whatever. That's already hard as it is. But you are away from home, away from your parents, and you have to keep that scholarship. So you don't have the time to think about what else can you do to enjoy that, because actually they provide a lot of experience, a lot of things that you could have gotten involved in and could have enjoyed those years a lot more had you looked out, away from your textbook and your exams for a moment.
The both of us were maturing at that point in time. We were in our teens, and we were going there for O levels and A levels. So it was a particular sensitive and what's the word? vulnerable period in our life as well. It was quite difficult to comprehend all of those things.
Wow, guys, I'm impressed with both of you. Scholarship. I don't have any scholarships.
Humble bragging. This whole thing, this whole question was like.
So, Trang, are there any guests that you would recommend to be on our show?
Guest. Vietnamese?
Doesn't necessarily have to be Vietnamese, but our whole show is about Vietnam. So if they can talk about Vietnam, that's great.
I don't know if you know Mai, who used to be my roommate back in LSE, Mai Lê.
Nope.
She is like the head of a bunch of startup companies.
There you go along.
And if you guys, because you keep mentioning that, so if you're interested, you should reach out to her, because like she left her banking job from Goldman Sachs and founded like I think bunch of startup initiatives and companies, and so is very active in that space. So I think if you're interested, you should reach out.
That's great. She's currently based in Vietnam.
No, in London.
Oh, in London. Okay. Oh,
That's more impressive than going back to Vietnam, because you still have to maintain your visa and everything. And I think she got like a investment visa to stay instead of a work visa.
Wow. Very impressive lady.
I knew you were going to say that word. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot for that.
Okay. Thank you, Trang, for being part of our conversation today. It was lovely to have you, and I learned a lot of things about you. I'm thoroughly impressed. So, guys, we talked about Instagram, how Trang got over 100,000 Instagram followers, as well as how she managed her corporate identity versus her online image. Thank you for listening, tuning in this episode. Join the community on Convo Comrades on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. As for now, bye-bye.